Hey everyone, and welcome back. Ready to dive in. Today, we're exploring ASMR.
ASMR.
Yeah, ASMR. But we're going way beyond those whispering videos you might be picturing, like way beyond.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So, what's on the agenda for this deep dive?
We're getting into the nitty-gritty, the actual science of it.
This science, huh?
You bet. We've got academic journals, neuroscience, even a touch of evolutionary psychology. It's a real mix. By the end of this, you'll know what ASMR is, what it says about our brains, and maybe even our ancient ancestors.
Wow, ambitious. I'm ready.
Perfect. Let's get to it. So, for those who might not know, can you give us a clear definition of ASMR? What exactly are we talking about here?
Right. So, ASMR, or Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response, is basically a sensory emotional experience. It's triggered by specific stimuli.
Stimuli, like.
Think like whispering, tapping, certain visuals.
Okay, so those videos are a good starting point then.
Exactly. But it's more than just those tingles people describe. It's a whole cascade of responses in your brain and body.
Really? So there's actual scientific evidence for this?
Yeah.
This isn't just like the internet making stuff up.
Oh, absolutely. Studies using brain imaging, they're showing distinct activity patterns in people experiencing ASMR. We're talking areas of the brain related to touch, reward, emotional regulation. It's complex.
So it's not just people pretending to be super into whispering. The research says this is a real, measurable thing.
100%. It's a real phenomenon.
Fascinating. So let's talk about those ASMR triggers. Is it all whispering and tapping, or is there more to it?
Way more. While those are classics, research has found some unexpected triggers. Think watching someone fold laundry carefully, the sound of crisp paper, even just the focused attention of another person can do it for some.
Folding laundry, seriously.
Yeah. It might seem random, but there's a common thread.
Which is?
Often it's about subtle social information.
Okay, how so?
These triggers. Often activities that signal closeness, care, connection, even indirectly.
Interesting. So it's less about the sounds themselves and more about what those sounds represent in like a social context.
Exactly. Like, why might our brains find those things calming, even soothing?
I mean, that makes sense. Why do you think that is?
There's this theory called the primate grooming hypothesis.
Primate grooming.
Yeah, so it suggests ASMR could be like an evolutionary echo, like from the calming bonding experience of grooming in primates.
Well, hold on. Are you saying my brain might be wired to find comfort in someone, like pretending to brush my hair on YouTube because it reminds me of being groomed by my monkey ancestors?
In a very simplified way, yeah. It's a cool idea, right?
That is wild. Okay, this is already blowing my mind, but let's break down those tingles for a second. What's actually happening in the brain when someone experiences ASMR?
Well, it's like a domino effect, really. You've got these ASMR triggers, right? And they activate specific parts of the brain.
Okay, like what parts are we talking about?
So we see a lot of activity in the somatosensory cortex. That's the part that processes touch. And then the reward centers, those light up too.
Reward center, so like dopamine's getting involved.
Exactly. Those feel-good chemicals come into play big time.
So it's pleasurable, for sure. But people also say it's calming, which is kind of different from, like an adrenaline rush.
Right. It's interesting because ASMR seems to engage both the excitement and relaxation systems in the brain.
Whoa, both at the same time.
Yeah, it's kind of a unique combination, and that might be why people feel both super content and deeply relaxed during ASMR.
That's wild. Okay, so if it feels this good and has all these brain benefits, why doesn't it work for everyone?
Ah, the million-dollar question. And the honest answer is, we don't fully know yet. Not everyone is equally susceptible to ASMR, and some people, well, they just don't experience it at all.
So what's going on there?
Well, one possibility is that ASMR is a polymorphism.
Poly what now?
Polymorphism. Basically, it means a trait that varies within a population. Like, some people have blue eyes, others have brown eyes. It's just a natural variation in humans.
Okay, so like some people are more prone to ASMR than others just based on how their brains are wired.
Exactly. And just like with other polymorphisms, some can have, let's say, less desirable effects.
Wait, less desirable? You mean ASMR can be a bad thing?
I wouldn't say bad, but research suggests that folks who experience ASMR might be more sensitive to certain things, like sensory overload.
Oh, that makes sense. Like if you're already super tuned in to certain stimuli, too much of it could be overwhelming.
Exactly. It's all about context. What's relaxing for one person could be irritating for another.
For sure. Okay, so we've covered the triggers, the evolutionary side, and what's happening in the brain. Let's talk practical stuff. Benefits. What are the potential upsides of ASMR for those who do experience it?
This is where things get really interesting. Because ASMR taps into those relaxation and reward pathways, the research suggests it could have some amazing benefits.
Like what?
Well, one big one is emotional regulation.
You mean like helping people manage stress and anxiety?
Exactly. And even potentially some symptoms of depression, though more research is needed there.
So not a replacement for therapy or anything, but maybe a helpful tool.
Precisely.
What about sleep? I feel like everyone uses ASMR to help them fall asleep these days.
Rightfully so. There's growing evidence that ASMR can do wonders for sleep quality. Studies are showing it can lower heart rate, obviously promote relaxation, and even increase those alpha brainwaves.
Alpha brainwaves, those are the ones you get right before you fall asleep, right?
Yeah, the calm, relaxed ones.
So it's not just people thinking it helps them sleep, there's actual science backing it up.
There really is. And bonus, because it's working naturally, you don't have to worry about feeling groggy the next day, like with some sleep aids.
Okay, that's a huge plus.
Yeah.
But you mentioned earlier that not everyone experiences ASMR the same way. Why do you think that is? Why all these individual differences?
That's a great question. It's likely a combination of factors, really. Genetics play a role, personality for sure, and even cultural influences.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, what triggers ASMR in one culture might not work the same way in another. Our sensory experiences are shaped by the world around us, right?
That is so cool. So like a sound that gives me the tingles might be totally different for someone on the other side of the world.
Exactly. Our preferences are incredibly personal and influenced by so many factors.
I love that ASMR is making us question these things, like how our brains work on such a basic level. But before we wrap things up, I'm curious, what's next for ASMR research? What are scientists most interested in figuring out now?
It really makes you think, right? Like there's so much we still don't know about how our brains interpret the world.
Exactly. It's like this whole other level of sensory experience that we're only just starting to understand.
And that's what makes ASMR research so exciting. There's so much potential for discovery here.
This deep dive has been incredible. We've learned that ASMR is a real thing, not just, internet hype.
Definitely not.
It's scientifically valid. It's got these potential benefits for anxiety, for sleep, maybe even more down the line. It's making us think differently about how our brains create these subjective experiences.
And the best part, we're just scratching the surface. There's so much more to learn.
Totally. Okay, before we wrap up, one last question for you. We've talked about individual differences, about culture, but what about technology? Where do you see ASMR going in the future with things like, I don't know, VR or even artificial intelligence? What do you think?
Whoa, that's a big one. Well, I mean, just imagine a world where you could have these personalized ASMR experiences, like on demand, tailored to your exact triggers and preferences.
Okay, yeah, that would be amazing. No more endless scrolling trying to find the right video.
Exactly. And maybe we even start incorporating things like biofeedback or VR into the mix. It could be huge.
Wow, that's pretty wild to think about. Like,
Yeah.
ASMR could become a regular part of therapy or something, helping people manage chronic pain, anxiety, you name it.
The possibilities are really endless when you think about it.
It's amazing to see how far ASMR has already come, right? From those early whispering videos to, who knows, maybe even virtual reality experiences in the future.
And to think, we're just getting started.
That's the exciting part. Well, on that note, we'll leave everyone with that to ponder. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the fascinating world of ASMR. Until next time, keep exploring.